Look around your living space right now. Not the version you cleaned up before someone came over. The real version. The everyday version. Because here's what most people never consider: the state of your home isn't just about habits or how busy you are. It runs deeper than that. Psychology tells us that your relationship with your physical space is actually a mirror. A direct reflection of something happening inside you that you may have never fully examined. And what's fascinating, almost unsettling, is that people who consistently keep their space clean and organized aren't just neat people. They carry a very specific psychological profile. A way of thinking. A way of feeling. A way of processing the world that most people around them never fully understand. If you're someone who genuinely can't rest in a messy space, if you feel a low-grade anxiety when things are out of place, if cleaning actually calms you rather than frustrates you, this video is going to explain why, in a way that might surprise you. Emotional introduction. We live in a world that loves to mock the clean person. You're so obsessed. Relax, it's just a mess. Why does it even matter? And most clean people just smile and say nothing. Because how do you explain to someone that the pile of dishes in the sink isn't just dishes? That the cluttered counter isn't just clutter? That walking into a clean, organized room feels like taking a full, deep breath after being underwater? You can't really explain it. Because it's not logical. It's psychological. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Because if you are someone who keeps their space clean, not because someone told you to, not because you're expecting guests, but because something inside you needs it, then there is an entire inner world behind that behavior that is worth understanding. A world that reveals things about your emotional intelligence, your early experiences, your relationship with control, your standards, and even your deepest fears. Let's go deep. Psychological explanation. First, let's clear something up. Keeping a clean home has almost nothing to do with being a type A personality, or being uptight or having too much time. Those are surface-level explanations that miss the entire point. The real explanation lives in something psychologists call environmental psychology, the study of how your physical surroundings affect your mental and emotional state. And what decades of research have consistently shown is this: your outer world and your inner world are in constant conversation. The condition of your space sends signals to your nervous system. A cluttered, chaotic environment quietly, often unconsciously, elevates your cortisol levels. That's your stress hormone. It keeps your brain in a low-level alert mode. You don't feel it dramatically. It just hums in the background. A vague uneasiness you can't quite name. Clean people figured this out. Not from a textbook. From lived experience. Their nervous system taught them, over time, that when their environment is ordered, they think more clearly. They feel more calm. They function more effectively. And once your brain learns that lesson, it never unlearns it. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the psychology behind it goes much further than just cleanliness reduces stress. The people who maintain clean spaces consistently share psychological traits that go all the way to the root of who they are. Sign number 1, they have a deep need for emotional control. Here's something psychology tells us that most people don't want to hear. For many people who maintain very clean and organized spaces, it started as a response to something in their life feeling out of control. Think about it. When you were young, or even now as an adult, if something in your emotional world felt chaotic, unpredictable, or overwhelming, what was the one thing you could control? Your room. Your desk. Your kitchen counter. You couldn't control the argument happening downstairs. You couldn't control the tension at work. You couldn't control the uncertainty you felt about the future. But you could arrange those books in a straight line. You could fold those clothes perfectly. You could scrub that surface until it was spotless. And in doing that, in making that small corner of the world orderly, you gave your anxious mind something it desperately needed. Evidence that order is possible. That chaos doesn't have to win. That you have some power. Psychologists call this a coping mechanism through environmental mastery. And what makes it so psychologically sophisticated is that unlike many coping mechanisms, this one is actually productive. It doesn't destroy you. It grounds you. But here's what's worth examining: if your need for a clean space becomes rigid, if it tips into anxiety when things get even slightly out of place, that's often a signal worth paying attention to. Not a character flaw. A signal. One that's asking you to look at where you feel powerless in other areas of your life. Sign number 2, they think in systems, not just tasks. Most people clean reactively. The mess gets bad enough, the embarrassment gets strong enough, the guests are coming in 2 hours, and suddenly they're cleaning. But people who keep their space consistently clean don't think in tasks. They think in systems. There's a profound difference. A task thinker says, I need to clean the kitchen. A systems thinker says, everything has a place it belongs. When I use something, it goes back. That's just how things work. This isn't just about cleanliness. This is a cognitive style. And psychology tells us it's deeply connected to how these individuals handle every area of their life. They tend to think in structures. They see patterns. They're often highly efficient, not because they work harder, but because they've reduced unnecessary friction in their environment so their mental energy isn't being constantly drained by disorder. There's a psychological concept called decision fatigue, the idea that every small decision you make drains a little bit of your mental resources. Where did I put my keys? Where is that paper? Why is this drawer overflowing? Every one of those small chaotic moments costs something. People who live in clean, organized environments have, often intuitively, minimized those micro-decisions. They know where everything is. Their space doesn't fight them. It supports them. And here's what's fascinating: studies in behavioral psychology have shown that people who maintain orderly environments consistently demonstrate higher follow-through on their goals. Not because neatness magically creates success, but because the mental clarity that comes from an ordered environment makes focused action easier. Their home isn't just a home. It's a system they've built to protect their thinking. Sign number 3, they have a heightened sensitivity to their environment. Here's something that people who love clean spaces have probably known their entire lives, but never had the words for. They feel their environment more than most people do. Walk into a cluttered, disorganized room and they feel it almost physically. A kind of friction. A low-level irritation that they can't always articulate. Some people describe it as noise, like visual static that they can't tune out. Walk into a clean, well-organized, thoughtfully arranged space and something in them settles. Their shoulders drop. Their breathing slows. Their mind quiets. This is not an exaggeration. This is neuroscience. Research from Princeton University's Neuroscience Institute found that physical clutter competes for your attention. It overwhelms the visual cortex and makes it harder to process information. For people with higher environmental sensitivity, and psychology tells us this is often linked to traits like empathy, introversion, and deep processing, this effect is significantly amplified. These are people who pick up on subtleties that others miss. The energy in a room. The tension in a conversation. The unspoken feeling beneath the surface. Their sensitivity is a gift, it makes them perceptive, thoughtful, and emotionally attuned. But that same sensitivity means that a chaotic environment doesn't just mildly annoy them. It genuinely disrupts them. Keeping their space clean isn't a quirk. It's self-care. It's how they protect their mind from overstimulation in a world that is already overwhelming enough. Sign number 4, they hold themselves to a standard that goes deeper than appearance. Let's talk about something most people misunderstand about clean people. The assumption is that they care about what others think. That they clean for appearances. That it's about impressing people. But most consistent clean people will tell you something that surprises the people around them: they clean even when no one is coming. They clean when they're the only one who will ever see it. They organize the inside of their closet even though no one else knows what it looks like. They make their bed even though they'll be back in it in 16 hours. Why? Because for these individuals, their environment is a direct reflection of their relationship with themselves. Deep down, there's a psychological principle at work here, the idea that how you treat your space is how you treat yourself. Cleaning and maintaining an orderly environment is, for these people, a form of self-respect. An act of valuing their own life. Their own time. Their own peace of mind. This connects to something psychologists call intrinsic standards, values you hold not because society rewards them, but because violating them makes you feel off. Uncomfortable in your own skin. Like you've let yourself down in some quiet, private way. And this is why clean people often struggle to explain their behavior to others. Because it's not about logic. It's not about rules someone gave them. It comes from somewhere more internal. More personal. They've simply decided, often without ever consciously articulating it, that they deserve to live in a space that feels good. That reflects care. That makes them feel, every single day, a little more like the version of themselves they want to be. Sign number 5, they use their environment to manage their mental and emotional state. This is perhaps the most psychologically sophisticated trait of all, and also the least talked about. People who keep their homes clean have, often without realizing it, developed a powerful emotional regulation strategy. Think about the last time you felt anxious. Overwhelmed. Like your thoughts were spinning and you couldn't grab onto anything solid. What did some of you do? You cleaned something. You washed the dishes. You reorganized a drawer. You vacuumed a room you'd already vacuumed. Not because it needed it. Because you needed it. And here's the psychology behind why that works. When your inner world feels chaotic, when emotions feel too big, too messy, too difficult to sort through, the act of creating external order gives your brain something very important, a sense of agency. Your mind says, I cannot fix what I'm feeling right now. But I can fix this. I can make this better. I can control this. And in completing that act, in moving from disorder to order in your physical environment, something remarkable happens neurologically. The completion of the task triggers a small dopamine release. The visible result gives your brain evidence that progress is possible. That you are capable. That things can be made right. It's not avoidance. It's grounding. Psychology distinguishes between escapism, running away from the emotion, and grounding, finding a way to stabilize so you can eventually face it. Cleaning, when done with awareness, is grounding. It brings you back into your body. Into the present moment. Into something tangible and real. This is why you'll often find that people who keep clean homes are also people who handle emotional difficulty with a quiet kind of resilience. They've built, over years, an almost unconscious system for returning to center. And their home is one of the most important tools in that system. Deep reflection section. Let's slow down for a moment. Because if you've been nodding along to this video, if you've recognized yourself in what's been described, there's something worth sitting with. The psychology of clean spaces isn't just about behavior. It's about meaning. For most people who live this way, their relationship with their environment is tied to something they haven't fully examined, the relationship between outer order and inner peace. Between what they can control and what they cannot. Between the standard they hold for themselves and the standard they hold for everything else in their life. And here's the question worth asking yourself. When I clean, what am I really trying to restore? Is it clarity? Because the noise in your head has gotten too loud? Is it control? Because something in your life feels unstable? Is it self-respect? Because you've been neglecting yourself and this is how you start to come back? Is it peace? Because you haven't felt truly at rest in a while, and a clean room is the closest thing to it? There are no wrong answers. But there is something profound in asking the question at all. Because here's what the most self-aware clean people understand, the ones who've really looked honestly at themselves. Keeping your physical space clean is healthy. It's grounding. It's wise. But it is not a substitute for the inner work. A perfectly organized home cannot fill an emotional void. It can't replace a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. It can't resolve grief, or loneliness, or unprocessed fear. It can create space for that work. It can support that work. But at some point, the outer order has to become a foundation you build from, not a wall you hide behind. The most psychologically healthy version of this trait looks like someone who maintains their environment from a place of self-love. Who cleans not to escape themselves, but to return to themselves. And the distinction between those two things is everything. Powerful conclusion. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we've talked about today. If you are someone who keeps their home clean, who genuinely can't function in chaos, who feels something lift when your environment is ordered, who makes their bed not for anyone else but because it matters to you, you are not simply a neat person. You are someone who understands, at a deep level, the relationship between your outer world and your inner world. Someone who has, probably without being taught this explicitly, learned that your environment is not neutral. That it shapes your thinking, your emotional state, your capacity for focus, your sense of self. That understanding is rare. And it is valuable. But carry this with you too, the sensitivity that makes you need a clean environment, that same sensitivity is what makes you perceptive, thoughtful, and emotionally aware. Don't let the world convince you that it's too much. It's not too much. It's a gift that sometimes comes with a weight. The goal isn't to stop caring about your environment. The goal is to make sure that care comes from a healthy place. That the order you create around you is a reflection of peace you've cultivated within you, not just a temporary solution to a storm you haven't yet been willing to face. Your home tells a story. And that story is always, always, about more than furniture and floors. It's about who you are. How you see yourself. What you believe you deserve. And if you've built a space that feels clean, calm, and like yours, that says something genuinely beautiful about you. Soft call to action. If any part of this felt like someone finally put words to something you've always known but never been able to explain, you're not alone. That feeling? That's recognition. And recognition is the beginning of real self-understanding. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you keep a clean space, and what does it actually feel like when things are out of order? I'd genuinely love to know your experience. And if you're someone who finds value in going deeper on psychology, human behavior, and the hidden forces that shape who we are, this channel exists for exactly that. Subscribe, and we'll keep going deeper together.